Yeah, so be on your best behavior. Yeah, so just a couple things. You're able to download these files just from Customer Connect. This one right here on the bottom, it's almost 3 gigs in size.
Hey, quick timeout, Rob.
Yeah.
So you said you're doing all of this on your home lab. So this is a physical infrastructure you built out in your house, right? This is not some virtual thing sitting in a back lab somewhere.
Yeah, this sits in my house.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Just like 2 or 3 physical machines back there, or?
This is one really big one.
Okay.
Just one big. Everything's virtualized off of it. It's got 2 Xeon processors in it, so it looks like there's 40 cores. And the cool part about this is there's 0.5 terabyte of memory in this box.
Whoa, nice. Cool. Yeah. That may come into play later, right? As we're monitoring your infrastructure. Yeah. If we get to that point, we kind of understand what's under the hood.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so sort of back to the OVAs. This right here is the really the one that you need to download to do the install. This is another one right here. This is for the cloud proxy, which there's another opportunity for you to download this later, which we'll sort of get to that as well. The other thing I'll tell you here is the IP space that we're using. This is going to be on my 10 network, so it's just 192.168.10. The one that we're going to get ready to install right now, I'm going to call it vROps 8B. It's going to get the .22 address. My gateways are all .1. And then when we get to the cloud proxy, this is going to be .23, and these are all in DNS right now. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and kick this off. This is an OVA, right? So I'm just going to come up here to my cluster of 1, right click, deploy in OVA, OVF. We're going to go ahead and upload files. And here is my OVA that we just talked about. Go ahead and choose this one and click next. We've got to give it a name. In general, I don't like these big, long, ugly names that they give. In this case right here, I mentioned that we were going to call this vROps 8B. I had an A and a B. Go ahead and say next. Wants to know where it's going to go. In my case, my main compute is just in cluster 1. I do have a vSAN cluster here. This is all virtualized, but we'll leave that alone right now. So we'll just leave right there in cluster 1. We'll choose next. And of course, everything's going to go in slow motion when you're doing something live. The normal content here, just review details, just talking what it's going to be. I thin provision everything in my space here, just because I don't have a ton of disk space. I've got like 3 terabytes of SSD. Say next. The license agreement. Go ahead and choose. We accept it. And the next piece here is the configuration. We've got several sizes of vROps nodes that we can use, and there's actually a vROps sizer out here. So there's a sizing guide, and then there's also a sizer. So we come out here and take a look at this. There is basically they want to know, okay, how many vCenters do you plan on looking at? How many clusters, how many data stores, so on and so forth. There's a whole bunch of questions, and at the end of this, you'll come up with an appropriate size of a device. For what we're going to do right here, I'm just going to leave it as small. Small takes 4 vCPUs and 16 gigs of memory. At my previous customer, we had a 4-node extra large cluster, which was 24 vCPUs and 128 gigs of memory apiece. So we're sitting on 0.5 terabyte of memory just for vROps alone. And this doesn't include disk space. But, we'll go ahead and just leave it right here, small. Say next. Now it wants to know where you want to place this. I'm going to go ahead and put it on my SSD storage. Make sure I choose thin provisioning. Say next. And it wants to know which network. We are going to put this on my 10 network. And just as we scroll down through here, okay, the default gateway, 168.10.1. The domain name is going to be vROps 8B. Lab.zeroba.com. This is just my lab DNS space. DNS server here is .120 and 6810 dot. This was going to be 22. Subnet mask. This is pretty run of the mill here. I suspect most of you have had a chance to see something similar to this in deploying other OVAs in the past. Any questions before I hit next yet? Awesome. Typical VMware fashion, you go through this great big wizard, it sort of gives you a playback of everything that you've just told it. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish, and this will start deploying out here. This doesn't take too long. I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes, something like that. And it'll deploy this. And then once it's done deploying, we will have to go back out here and actually power it on because it will not be powered on. Yeah, I guess just while this is deploying, thanks to the good work of Mr. William Lamb at VMware, I think most of the people out there that have home labs have leveraged his nested virtualization VMs and such. But like, for example, up here, I've got ESX2, ESX3, ESX4. While these are virtual machines, these are what comprise my vSAN cluster. So again, it's more for functionality. I certainly wouldn't want to put any workloads on these, but you know, for lab space and just sort of testing things out, it works out pretty well. And then, you know, just got like, you know, some Linux boxes, some Windows boxes that sit out here too, really just to test things. Outside of that, have you all had a chance to use a field demo at all, in particular when it comes to you know, the vRealize products?
Yep, use it all the time.
Good. That's a good answer, Rick. The reason I say this is there are probably 2, 3, maybe 4 vROps instances out there. And is what I like about it is over at least my home lab space here is there is content out there. So if you're trying to create, say, a view, there's data out there, and it'll probably give you a good representation of what you might see in a customer environment. So
yeah, I would add in, you know, I haven't needed to use a demo environment too bad. I'm aware of field demo, but it gets confusing because there are multiple, you know, like cloud demo environments, and it's sometimes hard to know which one is best for the circumstance. So it's good to know the differences. Like,
yeah.
hey, this one has actual good content that you can do real time. Actual, you know, you're showing things that are actually happening versus maybe another environment that's just pretty stale. And sure, you can play around with the management, but you can't really see what things look like.
Yeah. Yep. There are there's one environment out there where you do get like full admin, where you actually log in as admin. That one's nice. I use it sometimes, but the one where I don't get administrative access, I think it's called the weekly build. I find that one's got a lot more content in it, so I tend to, you know, gravitate towards it more.
I know for VDI, I've had good luck going into the tech, or what is it? There's a portal, the test drive portal, which was built out for end user computing demonstrations and stuff, but they put vROps for, you know, back in the day had vROps for Horizon. So that was a really cool place to sort of see the VDI side of Horizon. And you would use the kind of the administrator passwords that are part of the test drive environment. And it surprised me. I'm like, gosh, I can't believe they're giving me this much administrative access, but there it is.
Yeah, that's great. All right, cool. So if you're watching down here, this went ahead and completed. I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and power this one on, and once this starts coming up, I'll go ahead and pop out the console just so we can watch it. So there's sort of a couple different parts of the installation of vROps here. So we just gone ahead and deployed, the OVA, right? It's just sort of lays the bits down. We'll power this up, and then there will be some opportunity. Like this isn't gonna like work as soon as we power it up. We're still gonna have to go ahead and give it some detail about what we want the installation to look like. So yeah, this part doesn't take too long.
Has anyone done the upgrade planning on vROps with customers lately?
Just did one Tuesday.
What version to what version, if I may ask?
8.6.2 to 8.10.1.
Okay, I got a customer what needs to go from 8.2 to 8.10.2. I know that's gonna be a two-step process.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think you got to step that one. Yep.
Is my customers looking at that too? They think they're going from 8.6 to 8.10. Is the remote collector migration just deploying a cloud proxy and then running the script to migrate the collector to the proxy? Is it that simple? And it's a one-to-one? Has anyone else encountered that?
Or does that get upgraded automatically as part of the deployment?
Or yeah, does that part of the upgrade?
I don't know. Have you anybody done anything with that with their customers?
I'm not stepped through that one yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did not even talk through the collector piece. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I found the documentation. I just haven't experienced it myself. I reached out to someone on the CMBU and I'm just waiting to hear back from them on it too. I just thought I'd query the group. It's a little bit more advanced than I'm used to working with vROps.
Yep.
And that's the type of thing that it would be hard for me. Well, I guess I could, deploy some collectors, but with my simple instance, I've never had anything other than just one node in my vROps instance. So
I do remember deploying the collectors. We did not deal with that. So I'll have to look at the documentation.
okay.
I can get back to you directly, Tim, or this
Okay.
group, whoever.
Yeah, I found a KB article that outlines the I get confused with the nomenclature too. Like an application remote collector is what our documentation says, and my customer's calling it a remote collector. I'm pretty sure they're the same thing.
No, those are two different things.
They are two different things.
Yeah, and actually,
So-
remote collectors themselves,
Is that just a data node?
it's not a data node. It's separate. So data nodes actually house data. Remote collectors were sort of endpoints that collected from, like say a vCenter or another managed item. It would collect that data and then it would send that data back to a data node, which AKA the cluster. The other thing is the name remote collector. Remote collectors on anything new, like if you're to go stand up a new, say 8.10 environment, I think even 8.6 is probably where it started. We don't have remote collectors anymore. We have cloud proxies.
Yeah, that was the whole conversation I was trying to get across to them, because they've got remote collectors and those are deprecated in 8.10, so they need to be transitioned to a cloud proxy. But
Okay.
they can't. The documentation I found was for an application remote collector, and there's a script that you run on the cloud proxy to point at the old application remote collector to migrate data or settings or whatever it does to the new cloud proxy. And it's supposedly a one-to-one, but again, I don't have experience doing it. And I'm not sure if I'm even pointing in the right direction. If their collectors are not ARCs, application remote collectors, then maybe I'm steering them down the wrong path. So
So Tim, is it, they do have remote collectors, they don't have cloud proxies, is that correct?
correct. Yep, they're not at 810 yet. They're still, so like they're aware that they're deprecated and or I guess at that point it's not deprecated, it's just not supported.
Yeah,
And they need to move to cloud proxies, but they just don't know how.
okay.
And I couldn't find any clear documentation on where to do that.
Yeah,
but
apparently if it's a cloud proxy, it's upgraded automatically after the cluster.
automatic.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, that would make sense. So awesome. I'll reach out to them this afternoon.
Yeah, here, so if you follow this right here, this completed and it's letting us know that, hey, you can actually log into this newly deployed vROps node. Cool. So we'll come out here, go, skip through the privacy thing. All right, so brand new newly deployed vROps node and wants to know what we want to do with it. You can do an express installation, which would just assume that, hey, we're just going to install this node and nothing else. You can do a new installation, which is what we're going to step through here in a moment, which would allow you to stand this up and maybe a couple other nodes. Or if you've got an existing installation and you want to add this new node to that, you can choose this third option right here. So we're just going to use this one right here to do a new installation, just so you can sort of see, the options within this. All right, so first thing, right, it's going to say a new cluster getting started. We'll go ahead and hit next. Have to give it a password, give it my super secret password here. So next. What's new about certificates, right? We rely so much on SSL certificates throughout almost everything we do. In general, I would expect most enterprises to maybe install a dedicated certificate here, maybe from like their internal CA. For our cases right here, we're just going to go ahead and use the default certificate that comes with product. It wants to know deployment details. Where's this going? This is just going to be a node of 1. Wants to know about time. So this is the name of this device right here, just vROps 8B. Gave it an NTP server. Cluster availability. We have two options here. We can either do a high availability, which basically say you went through the sizing guide and it told you were going to need 2 nodes. Well, if you set up HA, you have to double that. So you'd have to have 4 nodes. Continuous availability, which is the other one down here. I don't know how well it's coming across. It's sort of faint on my side. This sort of allows, it's another type of clustering. This is something I've not yet set up. He was just talking about select this mode to prevent data loss in the event of 1 or more node failures. Again, I've never used that one. And for this demo, we're just gonna not choose either of those today. Here's where you can go ahead and add some additional nodes. Should you want to set this up, say this is brand new and you knew you were going to set up 2 nodes, 3 nodes or whatever, you can simply come in here, hit this green arrow. You'd give it a node name, the address, and then we have 2 options here. It's either a data node or a witness node. Typically, if you're just going to set up, like say a 2 node, it would be another data node. So in our case right here, we're just going to leave that empty. We'll go ahead and choose next, and then ready to complete. So almost to the point where I'm going to flip over to the other node. vROps is one of the few VMware products that does not have a VAMI, right? VAMI is always listed on port 5480. vROps uses the node name /admin to get to what would be akin to what you would see inside of a VAMI. So once this comes up, this is going to continue saying configuring for first use. And then when it comes up, this start, oh, there it is. You can go ahead and click on start vROps operations. And this right here will actually launch us. The other thing you can do down here, and I've done this with my customers in the past. Your mileage may vary though, based on security concerns. Is just go ahead and toggle that SSH. I've had a SSH into these quite a bit in my previous stops. Also, I sort of mentioned the lack of a VAMI and everything being here in admin, right? So this is where you can come in and check system status, which is what we're looking at now. If we had cloud proxies, which we don't have yet, you would see them here. If you wanted to do a vROps upgrade out in Customer Connect, you can go download a .pak file or a pack file. This right here is where you would supply this and however many nodes you've got within your vROps infrastructure. Like say you had like a 6-node cluster, you would log into the master node /admin and deliver this PAK file to it, and it does the heavy lift of disseminating that same file out to the rest of the nodes and upgrading each one of the nodes in the cluster. It's pretty cool. Support, right? This right here is where you can come through and start taking a look at each one of the logs that are out here. And then there's some administrator settings. You know, some customers might be concerned about being FIPS compliant. You can change your password and stuff like that. Let's go back up here, and then you just go ahead and say start vROps. This takes a while, so while that's doing that one, I'm going to flip back over to my 8A node here, and notice right here in this URL, instead of /admin, it's /UI. This is where you would actually log into the product. So by default, the admin ID is admin. And nothing else is set up here as far as configuration sources right now. It's just all in local context. And I'll show you how to add some additional authentication sources too. All right, so this is sort of the second part of the installation here. You know, it just gives us a nice warm welcome here. Come through here, have to accept the EULA again. Our product key, I didn't go dig a product key out, so right now I'm just going to use the eval key that comes with it. Yeah, we'll go ahead and we'll join the customer experience and finally finish. And once this right here is done, we'll actually be able to do some configuration and maneuvering around inside the product. I know I've just talked a whole lot there. Any questions about what we might have covered so far? Cool. All right. Yeah, this is new. I haven't seen this little spaceman here, robot guy.
You should replace it with a Death Star.
Yeah, you like that? This is my
Be better.
my unraid box. It's just called Death Star.
Yeah, you need an image right there for that. That'd be good.
That's great. Okay, so just out of the box here, it's saying, hey, you should add a cloud account, which we'll come back and we'll do that. I'm going to do it in a slightly different manner. Across the left-hand side here, right, we've got home, we've got data sources, so on and so forth. Let's go to data sources, and it's sort of mentioning here adding a cloud account. That's exactly what we're going to do here. You'll see here we've got integrations and cloud proxies. If I go ahead and click on integrations, you'll see we are not plugged into anything. So vROps doesn't know, it doesn't know who it should be monitoring. So we'll come up here and we'll say add an account. And it wants to know, hey, what do you want to start collecting from? In my case, let's go ahead and choose my vCenter. So I'll choose this guy. We have to give it a name. Is what I like to do is have my names match the vCenter that I'm collecting from. So in my case, it's just vcsa.lab. You can give it a description if you like, and then we come down here. This is the more important part, the vCenter server. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that in there. Now we need to give it a credential. If we come out here, actually, if we hit the drop down, we don't have any saved credentials available, but we can hit this plus sign and we can add a new credential. So let's call this vCenter creds. The username is going to be administrator at vSphere.local. I spell admin. I can't spell administrator. And then give it a password. And is what will happen here is vROps will it'll store this. So you'll be able to use this vCenter creds as I name this credential elsewhere should we want to. I'm gonna go ahead and say okay. The next sort of important thing here is this collector group. Right now, I only have one vROps node. So I'm going to just leave that blank. Depending on how much time we have, we might come back to this and actually point this to using a cloud proxy. So we've got all this. The next thing we have to do is hit validate connection. This right here will go out and it'll bump up against that vCenter. And it's like, hey, we've got a certificate out here that we're unsure of. Is this the right one? I'm going to go ahead and accept that. Okay, it says our test was connection or successful. This is great. And with that, I can go ahead and say add. So pretty simple to do this. All right, so this right here is saying that that vCenter is already connected to another vROps node. Do I want to overwrite the configuration there or another vROps instance? I'm going to say no. I'm just going to leave it with my other one. So just looking at this now, we've got a cloud account that's configured in here, and vROps is going to actively start collecting data off of this guy. Just some of the other cloud accounts that are just sort of baked in, ready to go. Like if you've got Verni installed on your network, you're able to plug vROps into it. The same thing with login sites. And you see lots of options in here. AWS. Now, if you're plugged into AWS or Azure, there are 3 levels of vROps licensing. We've got basic, we've got advanced, and we've got enterprise. I think you have to be on enterprise in order to plug into AWS, Azure, and GCP. I'll tell you, vROps basic is very hindered. There's a lot of things that you cannot do with it, especially when it comes to creating your own content in terms of views, reports, and dashboards. I guess I tell you this, just be aware that if you're ever working with a customer and somebody says, oh yeah, we can't do, we can't like import a new report, well, it's probably based on the version of licensing they have. All right, cool. So we'll come back over here to integrations. Notice this was underneath accounts. If we come over here to the repository tab, these right here are other here, actually, these are installed integrations right here at the top. These are the ones that we just saw. If we scroll down here a little bit, you'll see available integrations. Now, these aren't installed yet. If you simply click activate, it'll actually install the backend pieces needed for this so that we can collect from those. At the end of the day, vROps is incredibly extensible. I guess I should say, if you're unaware, vROps is just a big database, and it takes advantage of these integrations that you set up, and it'll go out and do collections. The default is 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes, it's going to go out to each one of your endpoints and collect the data that's described, and that's all described inside of what we call the policy, which is probably be a conversation for another day. But it collects all this data. Once we've got this data, we can report on it. We can alert on it. If things are over under a particular value, we can create an alert, and with that alert, we can do lots of things. We can put it in your inbox. We can just put it on the console inside of vROps. We can open a ServiceNow incident. There's quite a few things we can actually do with that data. All right. So while that's there, I guess pause real quick. Any questions about what we just did? Cool. So underneath environment, if I click on this right here, if I click on object browser here, this should be very reminiscent of vCenter. You can sort of see what I've got here. If you sort of drill down, you know, environments, vSphere, hosts and clusters, right? Here's my my vCenter I just added. And I didn't tell it about my my data center. It discovers all this. So the cool thing about this is we tell vROps about a vCenter, and as vCenters you know, grow and contract, it grows and contracts with it. So if you deploy a new VM inside of your vCenter, you don't have to tell vROps, hey, there's a new VM out there, go find it. It finds it as part of its normal collection cycle. Yeah, so we'll have to give this a little bit more time to continue doing what it's doing. But the next thing that a lot of people wouldn't want to do is set up an integration for vROps into Active Directory. So we have configure and administration, and a lot of times I sort of get these two. I'm not always sure where they put certain things between configure and administration. So in my case right here, I picked configure wrong incorrectly. I wanted to come down to administration. But with that, we'll come up here to authentication sources. And once I'm in here, we have no authentication sources currently. So we'll go ahead and click add. And the display name, this right here will be the name that is listed in the dropdown. So I'm just going to call this Active Directory, if I can spell. And our source type, we have a couple different options here. You know, you can certainly take advantage of VIDM if you've got that set up in your environment already. In my case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose Active Directory. You've got integration modes. You've got to either basic or advanced. For what we're going to do, we're just going to leave that at basic. My domain is going to be zeroba.com. My user is administrator. And then I have to give it a password so it knows how to authenticate. With all this being said, go ahead and hit test. Hey, it was successful. I put good information in there, and I can say okay. So now we've got the integration here set up with Active Directory. So if I come back here to administration, the next thing we might want to do is maybe pull in a user group from AD to give them permissions inside of vROps. So we'll go ahead and click on access control. This right here is how we're going to determine who can log in and what they're able to do inside of the vROps tool. Right now, if you look underneath user accounts, we've got exactly one user, just admin, the default. If we come over here to user groups, this will show, okay, there's an everyone group. And this right here will sort of call out the access they have. Access all objects, no. But so what we can do here underneath user groups, if we hit the ellipse here, you can either import. If you import, this will import like a CSV list, or you can import from a source, which is what we're going to do here for Active Directory groups. Wants to know where it's coming from. Right there, I'll leave it there. And I've got a group out there. It's called vROps admins. So I'm just going to start with vROps. Boom, there it is. I found my vROps admins. Go ahead and say finish. Yes. All right, so now I've got my vROps admins group added or imported. We still didn't tell it what sort of permissions it's going to get. So in my case, let's call this an administrative group. So let's call them, since they're admins, we're going to give them administrator rights. Our scope is going to be all objects. And shoot, I didn't need to hit that. With that being said, right now it just shows that there's only one user inside of that AD group. But so I'll go ahead and say save. So it's as easy as that. Now, had there been 100 people within that group, it would have given the same permissions out to that, all 100 people in that group. My preferred method of applying permissions inside of vROps is have the customer come up with an Active Directory group, very much like what I did here. And as far as getting permissions into that group, just let the customer go with whatever their standard security practices are to gain access to an AD group. It sort of keeps like a vROps administrators maintenance and duties down a little bit rather than chasing that stuff around. Any questions about that? Sort of cool. It's all right. The other thing that we do is VMware has sort of sunset their costing tools, and everything has sort of been integrated into vROps. So we've got this whole notion of cost calculations. Shoot, that's not the right spot. There is a spot where we come in here and we have to tell it what are we using, you know, US dollars? Are we using, it might be under configure, sorry. Here, cost settings, sorry. So underneath the configure, there's cost settings. And when it comes in here, it says we couldn't, you don't have any currency defined. Yeah, currency is what I was looking for. So with that being said, we need to identify this. And where did it go? Sorry. Your actions, configure currency. That was underneath administration, global setting. Yeah, so it was global settings, administration. All right, so once you come in here, you get exactly one chance to set your currency, and it'll squawk at you until you've done this. I'm just going to search for USD, US dollar. Once you set this, yeah, it says, I understand I only get to do this once. So, you know, don't, I can't imagine too many people choosing incorrectly, but basically you'd have to sort of tear out everything you did and redeploy. All right, so we'll set the currency. This right here, the cost calculations and stuff, these things run nightly for vROps. So you can get an idea of what it costs you to run your workloads on-prem. We also have got the ability to enter your rate card from, say, Amazon, and you can do like a live comparison of what it costs to run a particular workload on-prem as opposed to what Amazon would charge you. Yeah, just talking about my license, no problem. Yeah, I don't care about these. So I don't know, thoughts. It's pretty simple to get a basic installation out there. Oh, here, we should also do cloud proxy. So when you come out here and you say you wanted to add a new cloud proxy, sort of touching on what you were talking about earlier, Tim, you can simply click new, right? And it's going to give you a location of where you can download the OVA for the cloud proxy. I've already done that. It's right here. Then it tells you to go ahead and import this into your vCenter. This is all great. We'll step through this. This one doesn't take too long. Deploy an OVF. It's a local file. So cloud proxy OVA. Say next. We'll call this vROps 8 TP for cloud proxy. Yeah, I'm going to deploy it in that cluster. My cluster of 1. All right, so step through this. Next, set the EULA. So 2 different sizes of cloud proxies, either small or standard. Yeah, the small looks like it'll do 8,000 VMs, so that's plenty fine for our use case. The standard does up to 40,000 VMs. Yeah, that's significant. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and leave it on the small. We'll choose next. Where are we going to put this? Cluster, thin provision. Okay. Going back to the 10 network. Okay. And all right, so right here, it wants to know about this this uniquely generated key. If I come back over here to vROps, this is that key it's referring to. So go and click this icon right here, this copy key. Come back over here. I'm gonna paste this in here. It's big, long, and ugly. Friendly name, we're gonna call this vROps 8 CP for cloud proxy. Give it time value again, give it some IP addresses. This is for a proxy. I don't use proxies on my network, so we don't have to worry about that, but we do have to worry about the networking properties. 192.168.10.1, vROps 8 CP. And the IP address for this one is 10.23, and then our subnet mask. Oh, that all looks wonderful. Finish. Have I put you all to sleep yet? Yeah, me too.
Still waiting.
No, I'm still here too. I actually ran through this same process testing for my customer. It was kind of slick how it worked.
Yeah, cool. So I'll
I
show you.
just,
Yeah.
my big
okay.
question still is getting with the functionality, not ever having gone into that depth yet. And I'm still kind of taking my vRealize course of like a remote collector or a cloud proxy, configuring that within vROps.
Yeah, well, I'll show you this, and this will make a little bit more sense once this is up, and how you can take advantage of it, and why you would want to take advantage of this. This actually deploys pretty quick here. So with this this key right here, when and it's applied to this VM that we're deploying right now, when it comes up, it will reach out to the vROps cluster. In this case, it's cluster 1, right? We only have one data node, but once this comes up, it'll sort of, well, not sort of, it'll find the cluster, and it'll check in, and the cluster will take advantage of it. And once we've got that up there, this is where it'll make a little bit more sense. When we had remote collectors, they were actually part of, well, they called it part of the cluster. It might be a little bit more, a little better to call them part of the solution, as opposed to cluster. Because really, when I think of cluster, I sort of think of the data nodes where the actual data is. The way they're using the cloud proxies now, they don't show up in the same bunching as the data center, or as the data nodes. They're in a separate section underneath cloud proxies. All right, cool. So this right here deployed. Let's make sure that this powered up. Yeah, cool. It just deployed it. It didn't power it on. So yeah, we'll go ahead and power this guy on. And just take a quick see here as it comes up. The other thing, remote collectors and cloud proxies, if you have a problem with one, I would not spend any more time than you need to on troubleshooting it. They're sort of meant to be knocked down, stand up, such that say you're doing an upgrade and one of them doesn't upgrade as expected, just kill it and deploy a brand new one. You can see how quickly we can deploy a new one. It's take it 10 minutes to deploy a new one. It might take you hours or days to troubleshoot why something didn't work quite right on an upgrade or any other thing.
So the whole point of the proxy then essentially is just to be a collection point and then a funnel through to the solution itself.
Exactly.
So you don't have like 10,000 nodes all streaming data back to the vROPS. They stream to, say, the collector in like a remote data center or something, and then the collector just forwards that information back to vCenter, or not vCenter, vROPS and the data nodes and all that.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
said it
kind of what
better.
I thought. I just have never actually configured it or understood the actual architecture, so that helps.
Yeah, in fact, if I had, anything sizable environment in my environment, I don't think I'd want, well, the data nodes have got the ability to go out and do collections directly themselves. I don't think, really once you start getting some size, and even they don't have to be that big, simply because this cloud proxy is so small. I would just put a cloud proxy between my data nodes and anything that we're collecting from. In this case, it's vCenters. Just they're so lightweight anyways. Just let them do the heavy lift and let the data nodes just be data nodes.
Does vROPS automatically configure the cloud proxies and know like what resources to collect on what proxy? Or do you have to
Nope, not at
configure
all. I'm going to show you that though. It's super
Okay,
easy.
okay, cool. Perfect. That was my last question.
Yeah, no, this is good. I appreciate the questions.
We appreciate you taking the time to go through this stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Outside of this, if you guys need some help with like any of your customers on vROP stuff, let me know. Just find some time on my calendar. I'm more than happy to jump in.
Have you done any work as far as the lifecycle manager is concerned with the vRealize suite yet, Rob? Or is anyone else? I've dabbled a little. I'm by no means an expert, but
I have not. I'm very
Okay.
interested though. Wait, are you talking about the vRealize suite
yeah,
lifecycle?
vRealize suite lifecycle manager. Yeah,
Okay.
I hate saying the whole thing. So I don't mean the vCenter LCM.
Yeah. I've not, but I should.
I don't know if it's any, I don't think it's necessarily any easier, but if you have more components in the suite, it does make it nicer to just kind of get an overview of how things are running. It just can get confusing with product support packs and then downloading binaries to upgrade and stuff like that.
And I found like one of my customers uses it with no problem connected to vROPS and login site. They're like, oh yeah, we use VRLCM to do the login site and the vROPS, but not VRO, VRA. They are not underneath LCM. And I didn't even know that was an option, right? To piecemeal it.
Yeah, that's interesting because the easy installer, I thought, deploys LCM and then it deploys IDM and VRA all together. I've got
that
kind of
option.
the opposite.
You got that option during deployment, but if you like deploy LCM by itself, I think, then you can choose to manage things underneath it. You can like, okay, I'm going to add vROPS under LCM now, and from now on, LCM is going to control vROPS. I mean, the ideal situation is to do the full deployment of everything. That way, LCM and all of its databases totally understand the environment with no, misconfigured hooks that are not set right. And most customers have difficulties when they start unhooking things from LCM. But
Yeah,
But
you can
another-
certainly, I know you can, after the fact, add in instances to LCM. In fact, I think it even auto detects vRealize suite components in the environment and suggests that you add them in, or makes it a little bit easier.
There's another angle to this whole lifecycle manager too. If you have any customers that are moving to subscription, the lifecycle manager is
That's a
one of the
good point.
components that's needed in order to do the reporting.
Yep.
Potentially, it's one of several options.
I heard that whole subscription thing is nothing but a fairy tale and nobody's really going to go to it. So we just keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Tell that to
real.
my customer.
Yeah,
Pulling
mine
that
too.
gear out.
Yeah, that's part of my thing. I mean, the Midwest is known for like slow rolling things, right? The East Coast and the West Coast are early adopters of technologies, but I'm like, we keep doing all of these gain site things and success plans because all of our customers are going to the subscription model. I'm like, no, none of mine are. They don't want it. They're gonna, we're gonna force them to, of course, you know, and that's gonna be rough. But like, yeah, I got nobody doing subscription except for maybe Horizon, where they had to do some universal licensing. Otherwise, nope.
Well, I'm hearing from my sales teams that it's not gonna be, it's gonna be the only option soon.
Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a
perpetual is just
customer
going
that
away,
didn't
so.
want to do subscription, but was forced into it the end of last year.
Yeah, subscription and then core licensing versus socket or CPU licensing.
Yep.
So right now, I'm just sort of waiting for this newly deployed cloud proxy to check in. It will show up right here underneath data sources, cloud proxies. And once this checks in, I'll be able to show you how we can create a group, add the cloud proxy to it, and then assign that back to our integration. It's pretty simple. It's just a matter of getting this to cooperate and
Okay, so that's what the collector groups are for. Gotcha.
yep.
Okay, this is all making more sense. Thank you.
And of course, while we watch this, it's going to take its sweet time to not show up. So this right here was that one that we installed earlier. Come on. show
Off
up.
topic, but how do you like 1Password, Rob?
I don't like it nearly as much as LastPass.
Really?
Yeah.
I was looking at switching off LastPass to 1Password, but maybe I won't. I just, with the whole breach thing that they had, I was
Yeah.
unsure.
Yeah. That's exactly why I moved over to 1Pass
Okay,
or 1Password, and I don't like it as much, that's for sure.
yeah, LastPass was nice, but I guess I,
1Password will
delay
also
my
store
option.
like credit card information too, which that is sort of nice.
okay.
There we go. Here, it showed up finally. So here was this newly deployed cloud proxy, right? vROps 8CP. It's going online. Right. So it's not completely there, but I think it's going to be there enough for us to do the next part here. So I think it was underneath administration. We should have collector groups. So we're going to come down here to collector groups. And right now we only have one collector group, which is our default collector group. Our default collector group currently contains our data node. That's all that's out there. So we're going to go ahead and click add. And we'll call this I don't know, the Dallas collector group. Give it a name, whatever you want. Now wants to know what are you going to put in there. If we had more than one available, available means it hasn't been assigned to another collector group. You would see them down here. Right now we only have one, so I'm just go ahead and choose this one. Oh shoot, excuse me, I gotta sneeze. It's not going to come now. All right, so we're creating a group called Dallas Collector Group, and we're adding one cloud proxy to it. We'll go ahead and save. Yeah. Now that we've got this new group, if I click on it, you'll see it's got just this one collector group. Say, for example, if I come up underneath my data sources and go look at my integrations, this vCenter right here, let's say it was in Dallas and we had a great big data center down there. I can hit the vertical ellipse here, ... I can say edit. And if we come down here and look at the collector group, right now it is being collected by the default collector group. If I hit this drop down, hey, look at this. I've got this Dallas collector group. I'm going to go ahead and choose this one. I'll validate again. Hey, it was successful. This is great. Okay, now we save. All right, so now at this point, that vCenter data is being collected from this other our cloud proxy. So you can put a cloud proxy in each one of your data centers. You could put cloud proxy out in AWS. You have lots of options here. So does that make any sense about the cloud proxies and collector groups and how they work?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. And now keep in mind, right, you could certainly come down here to administration, right, our collector groups again. You know, you could create another one here, we'll call it, you know, New York. Collector group. Oh, I can't really use that one again. You can only, these can only reside in one group. So, but you sort of get the premise, right? Of how those work. And then after you create that, you just need to make sure you go back up to your integrations here and make sure that you've got the right integration going to the right location. So if we had multiple vCenters, you would have a line item for each vCenter right underneath this. So, yeah, so really we got through what I wanted to get through today, just a basic install. I guess, wait, I'll show you one more thing, right? I told you earlier, instead of a VAMI, we had the /admin page. Let's jump out here real quick. We'll go ahead and log into this. And then I'll cut you guys loose. Sorry to keep you so long here, but you'll see here, if we look at our system status, we only have one data node. We'll enable that. But if we go over here to cloud proxies, this is where we'll see our cloud proxies. It used to be when you did any of your upgrades and stuff, it stepped through all of your data nodes and your remote collectors. Now that we've got that unbundled, you know, they must be upgraded individually. But if we wanted to do a software update, we simply come over here to software update. I mentioned earlier that we use .pak files, like the pack files. Just go ahead and grab those. And then once this comes up, you'll just say install software update. You'll feed it the pack file and, you know, go through the wizard. I think there's like 3 or 4 questions and off to the races. So, yeah, that's what I had for you guys today. And any thoughts, any questions?
No, that was good. Thank you.
Good.